What is going on, guys, and welcome back to another video on my channel. Today we are back with another track guide, hotlap master guide on the F1 23 game, F1 24 Mercedes W15 F1 car, of course, and we are in Suzuka, fitting to the actual F1 weekend. So here we go. We are going to structure this again in the track walk, where we are driving around the track slowly. I will point out a few aspects of the circuit that you need to watch out to improve your lap times by a lot. And after that, we are going to have a look at a commentated quick lap, my best lap at my time trial attempt that I did for this video. And then after this, we are also getting into the setup, quali and race setup, and then you're ready to destroy your mates and career mode AI on the F1 23 game. But for now, is my voice louder than the game? Yeah, it is. Okay, so first of all, out of the final corner, I want you to use 55 differential. You want to position yourself here on the right, then flick over to this here and get your power down without any wheel spin, which we did manage to do, but it is okay. And then you're powering down the straight, 8th gear, of course. First actual marker that you're looking for is kind of this tarmac spot here on the left, okay? This is kind of the point where you want to turn in. You can lift it a little bit, but you're still, I think you're still flat until here. Then you start braking. You should change your brake bias already down to 50 or 51, depending on what you prefer. 50 diff as well, not 55 anymore. And you get close to the curb, you can even ride the curb, but be careful if you go too far. Sometimes it sucks you up, and then you skateboard and you can't align the line perfectly. You might lose half a tenth, so be careful. Then you don't want to use the inside curb here, but you get close early on the power. It's more important to be aggressive on the power than actually making the apex. So if you don't make the apex, don't worry too much, as long as you can get on the power. Then here you can use all of the track available. You're not going to lose any time from that, and you're going to keep it in this 50-50 differential. Over here, there's no really reference. You're just aiming to hug the curb like this with your left side tire. Then you're flicking it over at this point over, and you want to hit the curb here last minute, so it rotates your car nicely. And with this, if you don't spin out, you can line up your car already over here, so you don't have to go fully to the left, which will open up the left here a little bit more. And you want to drive fully around it, but get as close as possible. Then same here, 5th gear, little downshift, and maybe a little brake if you need it. Then push through here as early as full throttle, and you never want to go to the left. You want to, if possible, go as quickly to the right here and stay as tight as possible. So always make sure to focus on the exit, because this will line up this corner much easier. Otherwise, you will have a chance of spinning out. Don't use any of these curbs, also not the exit curb here, especially not over it, because it will hook you up like a sausage curb or like a skateboard curb. And then you also want to position yourself as quickly as possible over here on the left, because it saves you track distance, means lap time, easy lap time, okay? Over here, we can take this flat with the setup in quali. In the race, you need to lift a little bit. You want to cut over this curb a little bit, not on the grass. Now, you can already, before that curb, change it to 55 or 54 brake bias, whatever you're comfortable with. And also, after this corner, quickly, so you already have the brake bias change, and then you position your MFD switch, whatever it is, down to differential. And after you take this corner, immediately switch to 55, brake after the curb, very hard, don't go on the grass, down to 4th gear, and then get close, but don't go on the curb. It's a little bit of a bank corner, you can't see it that good in TV cam, but you can see the left is a bit higher than the right. With that, you open up the line and you power as quickly as possible. Position your left tire like this, but if you go a bit too far, you will also get sucked up and you will get a lot of wheel spin. You could see that right here at the final bit. Also change your brake bias please to 55, latest point here. You keep the differential on 55 as well. And this corner is a bit of a weird one, because in the F1 game, you need to slide to go quick in slow speed corners, which means on this corner, you basically want a little drift. You can also manage to do it without a drift, but the fastest way is to drift. So you can enter it holding 6th gear, going down into 3rd, or you go into 7th and go down into 3rd. But usually you also go down to 4th, and then at the final bit, you don't need to make the apex. If you turn it too early, it will push you straight and you will have a bad exit. So rather miss the apex a little bit to always be consistent. You might lose a little bit of time, but it's fine. But before you get to the apex, you go into 3rd. So you're 4th and then 3rd just before the apex to get a little bit more rotation. And then you're trying to get the car as straight as possible. Don't use the outside curb. It will cause you a little bit of wheel spin, and power down as quickly as possible. Differential to 50. Brake bias also to 50 or 51 or 52, whatever you're comfortable with. Stay as tight as possible. Don't use this curb here. And then after the 50, you go down into 6th gear. You can hug the inside curb here a little bit, not too much. With too much steering angle, you will spin. Then use the red curb not the white one. The white will also suck you up, and then same thing like in turn one and into turn 2, where it will cause you to understeer, and you will not make the apex as you want. There's a little bump when you go off the curb, so you always just want to be on a red and white curb. This curb on the inside, you want to avoid completely. You're still on the same differential, and then you try and rotate, so aggressive on the power, early power. You might understeer. Be careful with running wide here. It will also lose you time, and you will get an off track, but you can kind of still go onto the red and white and a little bit on the zigzag curbs. Then here, you can already change your brake bias to 56 on the setup, depending on your differential. And then you power down this straight, and for 130R, you don't want to hit the curb on the inside, but you want to just drive around it and stay as tight as possible. You can lose a little bit of time. You actually like half a tenth if you don't get it right. If you use all the track, you will lose time, so you always want to stay tight to minimize track distance again. Now after 130R, 55 differential, super heavy, aggressive initial braking, bam, to get to 100% at the 100-meter board. Then down to 4th gear for the right-hander. You can cut a little bit over the curb, but I feel like both curbs unsettle the car. You can't even cut over the grass, but you will lose traction. So I couldn't really figure out anymore what is the fastest line through the chicane. It is very tricky. You can make and break a lot of lap time here, so you can send it. If you can cut over the grass without losing too much traction for the left, it will be the fastest, but it's less consistent. So always you have to kind of weigh in what is more important to you. Then for the left, get close to the curb, but don't run over it, especially not over the like lighter green part, because it will be unsettling the car. And then you want to be as aggressive as possible on the throttle, even run over this curb here, so you can open up the steering wheel as early as possible. And then you're kind of running down this curb, stay straight and power down to the line. And for your next lap, even change the differential again, and then also to 51 or 50 brake bias. And this is a slow lap around the track. Now we're getting into the fast lap and then into the setup. So let's go. So as you could see, out of final corner, we are focusing a lot on our exit, as I've already mentioned. Then heading down the straight for turn 1, we are focusing on the tarmac spot on the left. We're still taking turn 1 nearly flat. Then we are braking, getting close to the curb, 5th gear, a lot of throttle to rotate the car, and now we are powering through this whole section. Still flat, 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 little lift, like 60% still on the throttle. Then here also, you just regulate the throttle with these wings. It's really easy. We tap the brakes here a little bit, but not that much, and then we're powering through here, full throttle. We use a little bit of the curb, and now we're staying close. Next up, with 50 differential, now we're changing it after this corner, heavy braking, down to 4th, early on the power, use all the track again for the right-hander. Now look at what we're doing, 7th gear, down to 4th, and like I said, just at the apex, we're going to 3rd. Get the steering wheel straight and power down with maximum throttle. Stay on the inside as much as you can and avoid the curb here on the right. You don't want to drive on there. And now 6th gear for the left-hander, rotate again on the throttle, 5th gear, and push, 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 use all the track and rotate on the curb. We could have been a little bit faster through this whole second sector, but in overall it's pretty decent. And now through 130R, we're trying to avoid the curb on the inside, but get as close as possible, which we don't manage. We actually tap it a little bit, not too bad. And now hard braking, 4th gear, rotate here, 3rd. We use a little bit too much on the left, but then we are powering down this little part. And this is enough for 0.8, and this was a fast lap. So let's get into the setup. So the setup that we've used today, it has a lot of wings. This is slow in the race, okay? You know, actually, that's not too bad. I was thinking I had 44, 34 wings. You can increase the wings. It will be super fast in Sector 1. But trust me, even though the track seems like you need a lot of downforce, which you need looking at a setup, if you go too high, you will just lose out on so much lap time on the straights. And especially in the race, it will be crucial. So you can run it if you're more comfortable, if you're struggling with understeer in the corner, if you're struggling with rotation, if you're struggling with confidence in the corners, increase the wings, but keep the balance. Keep the 10 wing gap. If you feel like you're struggling a little bit on the rear end and you're rotating too much, you can also lower it to 8, maximum 7, I would say. Otherwise, it will become too understeery. And please work out the balance, because if you go too high with the rear wing will lose you more lap time than the front wing. There's more drag from the rear wing increase than the front wing. So it's a tight balance. But if you don't have the front wing, you always want to keep the wing gap. So you have to balance it out. If you're like, oh man, I need more front wing, then it will be super snappy. So it's playing around a lot, okay? Just a good balance. You can also go 40, 32 or 40, 30 if you run it in the race. Some of you might even be able to run something like this, but you have to adjust a few things, because this will be super understeery and you will lose out to others in the corners. So 42, 32 is our setup for the quali. Then here, differential, you could see how we are changing it on throttle in the actual session. In the race, you can probably keep on around 55 the whole race. Don't need to worry too much about that. The differential in quali, I think 50 is fine. If you struggle a lot under braking and you lose the rear, and especially in the chicane, the final corner, braking is very tricky. You need to be sensitive. You need to have a good feel on the brakes. You need to trail brake a lot. If you struggle, increase the brake bias. And if with that you just go straight, then please adjust this to maximum 52. I think 53 might be overkill. 52, you have to think about SUZUKA has a lot of weight transfer and direction changes, left, right in the S's. A lot of areas where you can gain a little bit of time of getting off the throttle, but you need to be on the throttle quickly again. So this gains you a little bit more rotation if you have the off throttle lower. It's a bit of a tricky one. Initially, the time trial setup was based with 51. I changed it to 50 because I feel like you gain a lot more lap time. It will be more unstable in the final chicane, so I increased also the brake bias to 56. For me, that's a nice balance, a nice compromise. So I have it like this. Suspension is always the geometry, right, left. Don't ask me why, it's just how it works. Then on the suspension, I was playing around a lot for this video, actually. This is what we used. So 36, 5, 2, 1. 35, 42. The initial base was 33, 40 with 41, 10 and 41 anti-roll. But I feel like this is a faster way to do it. The car rotates nicer and is more stable over the curbs in sector 1. It has more rotation, whilst it still creates a lot of traction under low speed downforce, and this is a nice compromise, but there's still room for improvement. I don't mean that this could actually be, I think, a decent esports setup. I'm not kidding. This is a good esports setup. So this is a pretty good setup. It probably can gain 1 or more 2/10. I don't know, maybe my driving at the moment is not on the limit, but this is pretty good. So try this out if you feel like you want to play around with it. As always, lowering the suspension means also increasing the front right height, and same with the rear. So if you lower the rear, you need to go higher. You need to go higher with the rear right height, okay? And if you go lower, there will be more traction under slow speed, but you might struggle in the high speeds because you have more load on the car, you know? It creates more downforce, especially in low speed, because it's lower and the car might be a little bit higher if there's less load. So you have more traction and more downforce easily produced. But yeah, it's playing around. But try the setup, it's pretty good. Brake pressure 100 as always. 50, you can see we are changing it a lot in the corner. So the one that I used, if you struggle a little bit with stability, just use +1 or +2 and you should be fine. Then tire pressure 22.5 on the fronts, 20.0 on the rear. And with this, you should be set to destroy your teammates. Pretty good, no? So for the race, I would just change the off differential and the wing gap, and then you should still have a really, really solid setup, which is easily drivable and probably also really quick. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Smash the like button, subscribe, hit the bell. Also, please drop a follow on my Instagram. I would really appreciate it if you do that. So I will see you in the next one. Have a lovely day. You're Marcel. Peace.